I am the Nature Hacker, and this is your world. So today I want to talk about Lyme disease and how to cure Lyme with herbs. So, I've been into natural health for a long time now, but I've always brushed off the potential of Lyme disease because I live in the desert and we just don't really have Lyme disease. We don't have deers or forests or anything like that. So I never really looked into Lyme disease. You think of Lyme disease as, that thing that you get when you get bit by a tick, when you have a big ring rash, but that's not necessarily the case. Definitely less than, I think it was less than like 40% of people have saw a ring at all before getting diagnosed with Lyme disease. And, I think it was less than 60% had even knowingly been bit by a tick. So it's a very widespread thing, and it can even be passed on to an unborn child by their mother. So it can be one of those things that you were born with. So first of all, I just want to go into how do you know if you have Lyme disease. Well, a lot of the issues are fatigue, insomnia, kidney pain, things like that. So, yeah, you can look online for more, complete list of Lyme disease symptoms, but it was definitely something, it definitely matched a lot of the symptoms I was having. So, just recently I was looking at, I was researching anti-acetylcholine, so acetylcholine inhibitors, basically antagonists, because I noticed that they did help me, and I thought that was because of chemtrails being organophosphates, so I need something to block that action. So I took them and it helped, but I started thinking a little deeper that maybe these are microorganisms that are causing problems, and I started looking at microorganisms that potentiate acetylcholine and these other things. And first of all, I found that those are excitotoxins. That's what excitotoxins do. And then I came across something saying that Lyme disease, the borrelia burgdorferi bacteria, actually produces these excitotoxins. So that really piqued my interest, because I knew that these anti-excitotoxin herbs were helping me. And I also knew that adaptogenic herbs helped me, with my insomnia and anxiety and things like that. And so I also had before been researching Lyme a little bit just for, some of my customers that have it and things. And it turns out that to kill it, you also use adaptogens. So I had figured that I was killing Streptococcus group B in myself, and that was what was helping me. But in fact, I might have been killing the Lyme disease, because that also is killed by adaptogens. So those two pieces of the puzzle lining up, and then I also read that it releases something that agonizes, or potentiates sodium channels. And so sodium channels are basically like voltage of your body. So, which is also, activating. There's certain things you can activate: sodium channels, activating NMDA, which is like glutamate, and activating acetylcholine, especially nicotinic acetylcholine. So those three, acetylcholine, NMDA, and sodium channels, are all excitotoxic responses. And it turns out that people with Lyme disease benefit from going against those things. So, not eating a lot of sodium, eating potassium instead. That helps a lot of people. Not eating glutamate, because the NMDA receptors are glutamate. And not eating egg yolks, because that has acetylcholine in it. So all three of those excitotoxic receptors contribute to excitotoxicity and the toxicity of Lyme. But one of the interesting things is the sodium channel is what I think the main thing that Lyme attacks, and I've noticed that I'm kind of a staticky person. It's not that I shock things all the time, but if I'm touching, if I'm wearing gloves and I'm touching like capsules or pipette tips or things like that, I've always been the person to charge things with static electricity, and I just thought, oh, it must just be how I'm touching it or whatever. But when I worked in the biology lab, we would fill tip boxes of these little pipette tips, and everybody filled them and they were fine. But when I filled them, all of the tips got statically charged and were kind of like clinging to each other. And it wasn't just one time; it was over and over every single time for the whole 5 years that I was there. So I was like this static person. It was really weird. But anyway, that makes sense if my sodium channels are dysfunctional, that I'm extra electricity. I have extra electricity in my body, almost like, I don't know, like these weird superheroes like Raiden or, I don't know, people from X-Men or whatever. But anyway, so that could be, is that the Lyme was attacking me. And another thing is that if I get a panic attack, if I go outside and put my feet on the ground, that helps a lot. So what that could be doing is discharging that excess static from my sodium channels being over-functional from the Lyme disease. So also when I was in the lab, I was having severe insomnia, early waking insomnia. So that, obviously probably was caused by the Lyme disease as well. So I want to go into the herbs to cure it. So I looked at the Brunner protocol, and that's basically how I figured out, okay, what actually kills these bacteria. And it turns out to be the same type of thing that kills gram-positive bacteria. So I had done a lot of research on gram-positive bacteria, and even though spirochetes are technically considered gram-negative, it turns out that you kill them a lot like gram-positive bacteria. So what that entails are terpenoids. Okay, so terpenoids is how to kill them. So we've got triterpenoids, we've got diterpenoids, and we've got monoterpenoids. There's also some other things, but those are the main ones. So triterpenoids are from adaptogenic herbs like ginseng, gynostemma. Gynostemma is my favorite. All types of adaptogens like Siberian ginseng, and you can kind of look up all of the types of adaptogens. So that's one. Now, in order to get maximum absorption of triterpenoids, those are saponins, you need something called steroidal saponins as well. So plants like Tribulus terrestris or Sarsaparilla or yucca. I'm personally allergic to yucca, so I couldn't use yucca, but those three are good steroidal saponins, and those will boost absorption of triterpenoid saponins. Now, in addition to that, also diterpenoids and monoterpenoids. I have a product called Nature's Fury, and I will link to it below, where you can see all the ingredients I have in this product. And this product was designed to kill gram-positive bacteria and Lyme, so you might want to check that out. But other phytochemicals, diterpenoids, monoterpenoids. A really good one is andrographilide, and that's from the bitter plant called Andrographis. And that's the thing with these terpenoids, these things that will kill it, they're all bitter. They're all bitter herbs. So that's one way to help know them. And the more bitter, it goes from tri to di to mono. The monoterpenoids, I guess, are usually the most bitter ones, and then triterpenoids less bitter. But all bitter things can help with this. So there's that. Now, that's the main way to kill them. But also, we want to counteract the problems that they're causing. So important to do is antioxidants. So vitamin E is important, vitamin C is important. Let's see, other things like from cloves, I think it's like carophyrin or other things like that. Humulene from hops is really good. as an antioxidant. Resveratrol, from grapes and things like that. You want to get like a resveratrol powder. Quercetin is really good. Silymarin from milk thistle. CoQ10. Things like that. So those are also good. And Dr. Bruner also has one or two of those on his protocol as well. And that just helps fight the oxidative damage that the Lyme bacteria is doing. So what we're doing here is we're boxing in the Lyme bacteria. We're taking away all of its mechanisms to do harm. So not only do we throw in there something that can kill it, while the bacteria can try to evade that or get around that, or burrow into cells to get away from that. And then what we're doing is we're putting in antioxidants so they can no longer destroy cells to get away from our saponins as easily. So that's one thing. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have the toxins that these bacteria release, and those effects, like I told you before, the sodium channel, the acetylcholine nicotinic receptor, muscarinic also possibly, and the NMDA receptor. So I looked at herbs that counter that. We got mulungu, Erythema mulungu, and remember to check out that link in my description for a link to my product, and you can see everything listed there and the amounts and everything. So mulungu, it counteracts it counteracts the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. So that's important, and that seems to really help people with like tick behaviors, like hair pulling or skin picking, or things like that. So yeah, it also helps people quit smoking, things like that. So it's a really good herb there. It also definitely helps with insomnia. It helps you get really deep sleep. Like when you wake up, you're like, oh my gosh, you got just such super deep sleep. So mulungu counteracts that. Datura, many other of those magical herbs counteract the muscarinic acetylcholine receptors. So that will also help with chronic fatigue to some extent. It will help with low blood pressure to some extent. Like people who kind of get fainty and things like that. It'll help with asthma. Lots of things like that. So that's also a really good one. Just Datura is very, very strong. You just need a very, very, very small amount, and you can see on my product I put a very little amount. And then another thing, let me check really quick. So Semen ziziphus and Pneumodium or something. So the Semen ziziphus is the NMDA receptor blocker. So that counteracts the glutamate, and it helps increase your percentage of GABA versus glutamate. So that's important to have. And then for a sodium channel blocker, there's cnidium. So that blocks the sodium channels that would cause statickiness and just excitotoxicity from the Lyme bacteria. So once we have all three of those things, we have antioxidants to prevent the bacteria from invading cells. We've got the anti-excitotoxin herbs to negate the toxic effect of the bacteria in general, and then we've got the saponins to go in there and just destroy the bacteria. So we have them boxed in that three-pronged system to really nail the Lyme bacteria and really help you get your life back on track, to improve your energy, to improve your sleep, just to improve your mental health, to improve your kidney health, hopefully. So so that's pretty much it. So that's the herbal attack for Lyme disease. So thanks for watching. I am the Nature Hacker. Go do work.